So I'm going to, hopefully my little camera will last. Camera is not holding the charge like it needs to. So this is what I recommend doing. I really like this little technique. It is put your pin in perpendicular right on the very end here where you've lined up the edge of the ruffle to this long edge and to the short edge here, and then grab all 4 of these threads, okay, and do like a little figure 8 around here. So around there and around there, and just go until you don't have any more thread, at least until you don't have any more of the 4 threads. I'm going to have these turquoise ones going a little bit longer, but I got a good rhythm going, so I'll just keep going. They're kind of long. So that's going to hold those gathers there now. Before, if I scooched gathers to this end, they would just kind of fall off the fabric. So by kind of moving them and tying those threads there, I can move them. Right there, you can see that my ruffle is kind of tucking down in there, the raw edge. So pull that up. You don't want that to do something weird. And then I'm going to start laying this along the fabric here and putting some pins in and see if we can get this to distribute nicely. I had a student that was really good at doing this, and she would always hand baste everything in and pinned really accurately, and boy, she had beautiful technique, let me tell you. All right, lining up the top edge, putting pins in right along there. That is kind of a dull pin. Let's try this guy. There. Again, it's a lot of little finger maneuvering. Pull these ruffles downward. That kind of helps keeping it. See how there's lots of like little lines here? You want that. You don't want flat spots. You don't want where this bottom ruffle is kind of caught up and flipped out over here. So take your time and really work with it. And you guys can long for those days that we had those really simple samples. Remember I said they get a little more difficult. Unfortunately, right as we're in the coronavirus stage. So hopefully these videos are working out for you guys. All right, and now I'm looking at the very end. I'm a little long on my ruffle, but my ruffle also is missing some gathers down here. So I'm gonna just take those turquoise threads, give it a little pull, add a few more gathers in there. I think when you do this on your lap, it'll be a lot easier than trying to do it in front of a camera. That is in front of my hands and my eyes. Oh, that's interesting. If you look back here, the black thread, so that was my starting thread, sometimes you'll start losing them. If you've pushed gathers off that come from the other side, they kind of get shorter and shorter, so be careful you don't lose those. That one's stuck in there, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take these 2 threads, wrap them around, because I think I'm pretty good on my size. Again, if you're doing this on a skirt that's pretty full, I've gone all the way around, and you'll gain and lose some gathers as you go, and you just have to make little adjustments. What you don't want to do is get to the end and be like, oh, I've got to gather up another extra 4 inches, and then you'll have this one big fluffy spot, and the rest will be kind of different looking. You don't want that. So I just unpinned a couple of them because I kind of ended up with that, right? I had a little extra fabric, and when I gathered it, I got a lot of gather there, and there's still little areas here that were kind of flat. So I'm just maneuver them over there. I don't want to say you can't overpin this, but definitely a lot of pins is going to help. Right here, this little piece wants to flop there. I don't want it to be there. I want it to be right there. So make them be where you want them. Don't let them tuck up, or they end up kind of weird looking after that when you stitch them. All right, it's in there. It is right size together. Confirm that you did that, because that stinks when I have students turn them in like that. You do not want to waste all that time. All right, are we still on baste? Yes, we are. All patterns say gather your ruffle up. And the first step after you adjust it and you get it all ready is to baste it in. So I'm going to leave my machine on baste, except this time it's really not a temporary stitch that I'll take out. It's a stitch that is going to hopefully be one of two that hold this ruffle on. It's done because if there are any little mistakes, I can easily remove it. So I'm going to go ahead and backstitch on this one, is what I was getting to about that whole little story I just told you. Here you go, backstitch. Keeping these edges, and here's what I find the trick is. Hold here, kind of pull this little ruffle area down, and you should end up with lots of little ruffles, little folds. See that big wad of threads right there I'm about to stitch over? It's fine. Most everybody stitches over it. I'm going to just kind of lift my presser foot with my needle down and get him the heck out of there. I don't want to see him anymore. Basting along, and it takes those big stitches, so it's kind of moving a lot fast. Now I know I have a lot of extra ruffle down here, a lot of extra gather, and you can see I'm just going to keep moving him down that way a little bit because I feel like I have still too much down here compared to the beginning. Make sure these edges line up there. Holding these down, these little ruffles, make sure they're not any big weird foldovers. Work with your needle in the down position. If you don't have that option, make sure you just take your hand wheel and roll it down there, and so it's holding so that you can like lift the presser foot, move some of these gathers around. Look, I'm going to move them down even more than what I did earlier. Let's get some good adjustments there. Lower down the presser foot. Make sure that these are all nice and little gathers and no big weird ones. Keep gathering or guiding on 5/8. Now remember, 5/8 should be this line that I'm stitching on anyhow. And the reason we go ahead and do a gather right along the 5/8 line is it'll help you create those little tiny stitches. I've done it where I do my final stitch in between the two base lines, because you see all these little stitches. I find that gives a really good look, but I know most patterns don't do that, so I don't want to do that for you. But if you're ever creating your own design and you're throwing a gather in, I would recommend that. It just requires you to remove this baste out later, but it's a baste and it comes out really easy. So I hope that makes sense to some people. So hold that down. Keep on stitching along here. Hold. I got a big fold right there, so I'm going to try to unfold it. So I've got one happening kind of under my presser foot, if you can see that. So you can imagine if this was a actual garment and you're going all the way around, it takes a little time. Okay, let's see how close I came to getting it to fit. So at the end there, I did what I did previously at the start and unfolded a lot of those threads so I can get rid of them, so I wouldn't end up with them in my stitch. All right, so before I go crazy and start cutting all these threads, I want to flip it over, and here you want to look for any mistakes. Are there any like really flat areas? Is there anything that just doesn't look pleasing to the eye? Sometimes I've actually caught like sections of this and stitched it so it's stuck in some weird spot. I've had students turn them in that way. Please don't do that. The whole point of the baste is to say, oh, you know, this area right here or there doesn't look quite right. So you go back and you open up the base stitches, and you only have to open them in that little area. So let's say like right here, this is doing something kind of funky. So why don't I fix that and show you how to do it? See how it's just taking that and like hooking it that way? I don't like that. Hopefully you can see that. So I feel like if I go look over here, I'll be able to see something that just doesn't look right. If I look in this seam, not too bad. If I look over here, yeah, you know, there's quite a bit of a fold in that one area. So it's not horrible, trust me. If I was turning this in, I would turn it in. But just for your guys' benefit, let me just do that. So let's say I don't like this right here. You would just pop out those stitches that are holding it. Boop, boop, boop. Opened it up. Readjust whatever it is that we don't like. So I don't like how that looks right there and there. Go right back onto your baste. Do a back stitch. And then connect all this back up again. All right, and then do another baste, or another back stitch, sorry. Some word that starts with a B. All right. Now, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and cut some of these threads because they're getting a little unruly. So I like that. I like how it looks from this side. So now we need to stitch it. So all around and around. Go back down to your stitch length of 2.5. Do your back stitch. Gonna be right on top of that baste. Do be careful though that something weird doesn't happen and you end up, you know, creating some little mistake that wasn't there originally. Like even this guy wants to fold again. Let me get that flat. That's my machine not liking how fast I am pushing the pedal. All right. Cut those threads. Again, we have so many threads on this, they start getting a little bit annoying. There and there. There. Hopefully my camera's in the right spot and you guys can see everything. These are my starting threads from where I did my little fix, right? My little fix happened right through here, so I clean some of those up. Like so and so. And that one's gone. Okay. So, it's good. It's in there. Now we want to get rid of this bulkiness. That is a lot of fabric going on right there. So what can we do to get rid of that? We can trim it. So, don't go crazy. Take maybe half of it away. Make sure you have some good scissors. Heavy duty cutting. All right. Let that fall. I lucked out. I actually trimmed right where that other stitch line was, so it's kind of holding it together. Yay! And then we're going to change to our zigzag stitch and finish that edge together. So go ahead and back stitch if you can. Remember, this is a couple layers, so it tends not to eat it quite like the other. Get those big guys out of here. And go back to my starting threads. Must have only been one. Got eaten down in there. All right, and I could clean up some of these threads a little bit more, but hey, look how cute this is. And you can just, I'll go to the iron and do a press on it at some point where I press from the top side and show you that. I'll add it onto the video. But look how cute my little ruffle is. So we got our ruffle gathers with our little narrow hem all in one sample. We can hook it together and make like a Barbie long skirt. A maxi Barbie skirt. Wouldn't that be cute? All right. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know it was a long one. Thanks for hanging in.